Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our presentation today on the Money Matters presentation. We're talking to you a little bit about your students' financial aid, scholarships, and payment processes here at UAB. My name is Meredith Call, and I am the Director for the Office of Parent and Family Services here at UAB, and I have asked a couple of different representatives from our One Stop as well as our Office of Financial Aid to share with you some of those great tips, needed information, and things in order to make sure that your student is transitioning and successful, and you are all starting off the semester on the right foot, understanding how all of our financial aid, scholarships, and payment processes will work at UAB. Before we get started with that presentation, I do want to make a couple of general announcements, though, for all of our participants. One, this is a live presentation, and so we want this to be interactive and engaging, and we want to make sure that we are providing you with the opportunity to answer or to ask as many questions as you have, and that we will answer as many as we possibly can get through during our time today. If at any point there's a possibility where we're unable to answer questions due to time constraints, please know that we are collecting all of these questions. And so if there are any unanswered questions at the end of the presentation, we will be able to follow up with you via email, post the presentation. Also, please note that this is, again, a live presentation. So please be careful if you are, when you're typing in your question, that you're not providing any identifying information about your students, specifically their name, their email address, Blazer ID, anything along those lines, because we want to make sure that we are maintaining the integrity and privacy of all of our students. And especially for our family members I know that are watching us on the Facebook Live side of things, please make sure that when you are providing your questions there, that you are just being very cognizant not to put in that identifying information in about your student. To ask your questions, for those of you that are joining us via Zoom, you just need to type your questions into the Q&A box. And then for those of you that are watching us through Facebook Live, if you want to just put your questions into the comment section, we will get to those questions at the conclusion of the presentation, so they'll offer plenty of time so that we can walk through those questions. But at this time, those are all the general announcements that I have. So I want to go ahead and introduce our two co-hosts of today's presentation. That is Jeremy Dixon from the One Stop and Lane Chapman from our Office of Financial Aid. And they're going to actually take you through everything about this particular presentation and the information that you need to know. So Jeremy and Lane, thank you so very much for coming and joining us for today's presentation.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.
I'm going to turn it over to the two of you and let you all share your wealth of knowledge and information, because you were the reason that family members are here today.
All right. Well, I will start by sharing my screen. Give me one moment. All right. So thank you all for joining us for the next few minutes. We hope to just discuss some certain things that, certain factors that probably will have an impact on your or your student's account. And so just a brief overview of the things that we're going to be covering. We're going to cover a little bit about the One Stop and what that means, FERPA, some billing statements and paying tuition, drop versus withdrawal, some federal financial aid, basic information, tips and resources, and then we'll field some questions at the very end. So some of you all may be wondering what a one-stop is, because this actually is a unique office for our campus or for our university, especially in the South. There's not many of them, but what we do is we've combined a lot of the functions that you see listed in gold up there on the top right. We've combined them into one office so that you or your student can come to one office and ask all those questions without hopefully getting bounced around from office to office. Some of the things that we can do in our office is we can make a one card, which is a student ID. We can help students with their registering for their class schedule or seeing their class schedule. We don't necessarily help them, advise them on classes they should take. That's up to advising to do. We can help them change a major or their address, financial aid and scholarship questions, and then basic account information such as how to make a payment to the student account, and actually how to help them understand what their bill looks like and how to read their bill for that semester or any previous semester that they've been here for. One thing I want to make sure that everybody's aware of is that when a student comes to our office, we have to abide by FERPA. And that's not something that's very widely known by parents for entering high school, or students that are coming out of high school entering into college. But FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And it's a federal law that basically prohibits us from releasing any information to anyone, including parents, without the student's consent. And so it's very similar to what HIPAA is to healthcare. And if you, as a parent, were to call and ask us for certain things, like I just want to know what grades my student had this previous semester, or what classes are they in and what building do they meet in, how much do they owe? Those are types of things that we cannot share freely with anyone other than the student. Now, if the student calls or you are present with the student while they're asking those questions, of course, we can share that information with you as long as the student is also present. But I wanted to make sure that you are aware of what FERPA is, because we get a lot of calls from parents often wanting to know. The basic one is, how much do I owe so that I can make a payment on my student's account? And that is a very common question that we get a lot of times, and we want to help them, help the parent out as much as possible, because obviously we want to help assist you pay for the tuition so the student does not get a hold or anything put on their account. And a lot of times the parent will say, well, if you want my money, you'll tell me how much I owe. And I totally understand that. And that is a very common phrase. But we strongly encourage you to get that information from the Parent Family Hub, or the Parent or UAB Family Hub, or get that information from your student so that you can make that payment on the student's account so they do not get a hold or anything like that. So regarding paying, the next thing I want to cover is just billing and statements. So how do we do that at UAB if you're not familiar with it? Well, we do not mail out paper statements. We actually email the student letting them know that the charges have been posted to the student account, and for them to go into BlazorNet and check the balance to see what they owe and what's been applied to their account. They can also see that information in the Family Hub. Again, we don't email students. We just tell them when it's been posted. And then a lot of times students often want to know, or even parents want to know, when where payment deadlines can be found. And you can just go to uab.edu/academic calendar. It's actually a very popular website. I probably check it daily, simply to find things such as payment deadlines. And also too, it's helpful to know when school will be out. So if there's a holiday or something like that and you're trying to plan a vacation, you can go to the academic calendar and find when school would be out. You'll also find other points of interest such as an add drop deadline, the withdrawal deadline, and then when exams are, when grades will post, and when diplomas and things like that are also mailed out. When you're looking at the student's account prior to the first day of class, you'll see things such as scholarships and financial aid listed as anticipated credit, and those are things that we do know about. Those are things that have been confirmed by the university as knowing that the student will be receiving those. As of right now, you will not see that for the fall semester. It'll come after charges post, which will be in July. And so as it gets closer to the beginning of the semester, if you start to see things or not see things on the student's account, such as a scholarship that you know should be on there and it's not listed as anticipated, then that means we probably have not received those funds from the donor yet. Or if you do not see financial aid listed as anticipated on there yet, there probably is a requirement that still needs to be satisfied in order for financial aid to be credited to that student's account at that time. And then once the first day of classes rolls around, everything becomes an actual credit or debit. And so you'll see that anticipated word go away, and everything at that point should be true on that day as far as like what you're receiving and what has been applied. And so that's pretty much how we do billing and paying, or billing and statements. You can make payments online through BlazorNet, and you can use a credit card, debit card, or you can even pay with an e-check. I will say there is a fee, a service fee to pay with a credit card or debit card, and there is not a service fee to pay with an e-check on BlazorNet. So that's an important thing to note, and it'll be helpful for you when you go to make a payment to save you some money. Here's an example of basically how a student account will look like. On the left-hand side over here, you'll see charges are listed, and on the right column, you'll see what payments look like. So you'll see things broken down such as financial aid, subsidized loan, unsubsidized loan. You'll see the total charges, and then you'll see total credits and payments. And then after all those two have been factored together, you'll see the current balance and what is owed. We have two different payment schedules you can choose from at UAB. We have what's called the standard, or just traditional payment schedule, where you just pay 100% of what is owed on the first payment deadline, which this fall would be August 24th. Or you can elect to be in what we call our payment plan, or the Blazor Flex plan. Now there is a service fee to use that. It's about $25. And you would just pay in thirds. So you would pay the first third on August 24th, the second third September 21st, and then whatever remaining balance on October 21st. Using this example you see here on the left, the first third was already taken care of by the loans, and so therefore they don't owe anything on the first payment deadline, and the remaining balance is then divided up into two, and that's what that student owes on the second payment deadline and the third payment deadline. There's different ways, again, to make a payment. You can pay in person at the One Stop. Once we open back up, you can actually bring a check in and put it in a lockbox. You can pay using BlazerNet, or you can mail a check to student accounting, and if you want that address, you can go to our website, which we'll put on the screen at the end, and find that address on our website and have that mailed in. I will say, if you're going to mail in a check, I encourage you to mail that check in a good 2 weeks in advance so that there are no late fees applied, because it does take a little bit for mail to get to UAB, because once it's sent to us, it then goes to our central post office on our campus and then has to be distributed to each office on campus afterwards. So I would encourage you to mail that check well in advance so that no late fees are applied. All right, next slide. I'd like to talk to you about drops versus withdrawals. So the drop add period is typically within the first 7 calendar days of each term. So basically August 31st will be the last day to drop add. No tuition and fees are charged if you drop a class during that period. However, if you go beyond that period and you need to withdraw from a course, you are still financially responsible for the class that you withdrew from, and the student will get a W on their transcript. Now, a W does not apply towards their GPA, does not factor in, but it does count as an attempt, which could impact the student's financial aid. So before a student withdraws from anything, I would strongly encourage them, one, just to contact our office and say, I'm thinking about withdrawing. Is that going to impact my financial aid in any way? And we can help them with that. But also, two, to let them know if you withdraw, then this may happen as well. Now, there is such a thing as a full term withdrawal. So if a student needs to withdraw from the entire semester, then they can get back a percentage of those charges if they do a full term withdrawal. Now, if they do a single class withdrawal, then they are still financially responsible for that course, and they do not get any of that money back. They have to do, again, a full term withdrawal to get any money back. And again, that means they have to withdraw from the entire semester. All right, at this point, I think I'm going to turn it over to Lane, who's going to take over talking about financial aid. So Lane, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jeremy. So like Jeremy said, wanted to look a little bit at federal financial aid. I know many of you have, you or your students have already started this process and have a lot of things taken care of, but we just want to make sure you have everything ready to go for the fall semester. So the biggest thing to keep in mind to be eligible for federal financial aid is that you do have to submit the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. Students will need to submit that as they're coming into UAB, but also it's something that has to be submitted each additional year they attend UAB. So it becomes available each October 1st for the following academic year. And we encourage students to submit this information by December 1st each year if possible, although we know that you can't always submit it by then, so you can continue submitting it after that date as well. Once students have received their offers, they can view and accept their financial aid offers through BlazerNet, which is their main student portal at UAB. They'll do a variety of different things through BlazerNet, and taking care of their financial aid is one of those things. And if your student has not submitted their FAFSA yet, or if you've recently submitted it, typically you'll be able to see their offers within about 1 to 2 weeks on BlazerNet. BlazerNet is where you'll also submit some additional information, and these are things that you'll want to be taking care of this summer. One is the resource form, which just lets us know if you have any additional aid that you'll be bringing to UAB. So outside scholarships, veterans benefits, things of that nature. You can let us know just so we make sure that we are correctly applying all your students' aid to their account. And then also the Title IV authorization form allows us to credit your student's account with the aid that they've received, even if it covers more than just their main tuition and fees. For students who are looking to take out direct student loans, they will need to complete a couple of different things. The first is to sign their master promissory note, which is just an agreement saying that you'll that you'll pay back the loan along with the interest, and just you're agreeing to the terms of the loan. And then entrance counseling is a quick online tutorial almost about what exactly student loans are, so you can learn about those and make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into and what to expect. And again, that's an online tutorial that entrance counseling is, and it doesn't take too long to complete. Your financial aid will be dispersed to your student's account on the first day of classes each semester. Like Jeremy mentioned earlier, until then, it will show up as anticipated aid, so you can still see what will pay out, and then it will actually disperse on that first day of classes. And that's for things like grants, scholarships, grants, scholarship loans, those types of aid. Work study is slightly different. It's a different type of aid in how it's received. So work study funds do not disperse on that first day of classes. They actually are paid out to the students through a biweekly paycheck based on the amount of hours that they've worked each pay period. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Even though they accept their offer, it doesn't automatically pay out upfront. So speaking of the different types of federal financial aid, I like to break it down into 3 categories just to keep it as simple as possible. So you have grants, work study, and loans. Grants are the best type of federal financial aid because that's money that you receive that you do not have to pay back. Most grants are need-based, so they're based on the expected family contribution that's calculated on the FAFSA. The 2 main grants that you'll see at UAB are the Pell Grant and the SEOG, which is the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. The next type of federal financial aid is work study. Work study is a need-based program as well, and it allows students to work either on campus or with one of our partnering off-campus companies or organizations. And it allows your students to earn money that they can then put towards their college expenses. Work study funds are great funds to use for those expenses that you just incur throughout the semester. Or you can save that money up and put it toward a future tuition payment. You can really use that money as you and your students see fit. And then the final type of federal financial aid are direct student loans. And this is probably what people are most familiar with, and that's money that students can borrow from the federal government at a low interest rate, and they can use that money to help fund their college education. Of course, those do accrue interest, and those do have to be paid back, but are typically pretty low interest. Now they're sitting at a little over 4%, and again through the federal government. One thing to keep in mind about all types of federal financial aid, generally students do have to be enrolled at least half-time each semester to be eligible for federal financial aid. So they have to be taking at least 6 or more hours as an undergraduate student to receive or be eligible for any type of aid. We also know that students will be bringing in additional resources and have additional resources to help them pay for their education at UAB. One, of course, is scholarships, both UAB scholarships and their outside scholarships that they're bringing in from things that they've earned through the community or through organizations that they're involved in. If your student hasn't already done so, they'll want to make sure that they accept any UAB scholarship offers at uab.edu/bsmart. And bsmart, which is the scholarship portal, is also where your students can apply for scholarships, additional scholarships each year. That bsmart application opens up October 1st, right around the same time the FAFSA does. So we encourage students to look into scholarship opportunities, not just as they're incoming students, but also once they're already here at UAB. And then if you do have any outside scholarship checks that your students are receiving from scholarships they've earned, they'll want to make sure that those are sent to UAB sooner rather than later, so we can go ahead and make sure that they're credited to your student's account. And you can send those to our scholarships office, and that address is posted online as well on all of our financial aid and scholarship websites. Another great place to look to if you are in need of additional resources and money to help fund your students' education. The next place I like to direct students is to the Parent Plus loan. As the name states, this is something that you as a parent would apply for. It's a little bit different than the student loans, but it is through the federal government. It is not a need-based loan, so it is not dependent upon your EFC, that expected family contribution. And you can receive up to the remaining amount of your student's cost of attendance. So we'll look and see how much aid they've received and scholarships, their federal financial aid. And then if you'd like, you can take out the remaining cost of attendance through the Parent Plus loan, or of course, any amount below that as well. The Parent Plus loan has a variety of benefits in comparison to other types of loans, one of which is it typically has a fairly low interest rate. Right now it's sitting around 7%. And also, if for some reason the parent, it is a credit-based loan, so if for some reason the parent does not pass the credit check for the Parent Plus loan, students do have some additional options if they are not able to, if you're not able to take out the Parent Plus loan specifically. And then after that, of course, you're always welcome to look into alternative loans through third-party lenders. We do not recommend any specific third-party lenders, but we do receive alternative loans from a variety of those, from some of your larger companies to some of your smaller ones. So if you have any questions about alternative loans, please feel free to reach out to us. If you're looking into alternative loans, you'll want to do that pretty soon. It does have a longer turnaround. So typically when you're looking at alternative loans, most of those are processed. It takes about 3 weeks at minimum to process those. So those will be things that you'll want to look into soon if you're in need of those. Just some important tips and tricks for you as you're getting ready for the fall semester. Students can review their account balance through BlazerNet, their student portal, or you can also view that through the UAB Family Hub before you're making those payments or as you're preparing for the fall semester. And as we've mentioned, your information will show up as anticipated financial aid, which will include both your scholarships and your federal financial aid that your student has received. And we want you to know that awarded or offered is not the same as accepted when it comes to federal financial aid. So we typically offer your students federal financial aid, but you do not have to accept those. A lot of times students are like, do I have to take out student loans? Absolutely not. It's up to you and what's best for your family. So those will stay in an offered status until you have accepted them, until your student has accepted them in BlazerNet. So your students will want to make sure they accept any aid that they're wanting to use or take advantage of, or else it will not pay out to their student account. There are a few things that we will accept on their behalf. So some types of grants will be automatically accepted for them, but work study and loans are things that they'll need to take action on. Again, you can make payments online using a debit or credit card through BlazerNet or the UAB Family Hub, as Jeremy has mentioned. And then you can also mail in those checks to our student accounting office, or you can drop them off in person once we're back to campus in the one-stop office in our Hill Student Center. And finally, some online resources. We're all using our online resources quite a good bit in these days. So just a few that will be helpful to you. BlazerNet, which we've mentioned a variety of times throughout the presentation, is your student's main portal that they'll use throughout their time at UAB. They can do a variety of things through there. So they'll want to make sure that they familiarize themselves with it as they're getting ready for the fall. If you're looking for your payment options, you can view those at uab.edu/when-to-pay. That will show you the different types of payment schedules that Jeremy referenced earlier, our standard payment schedule, and then the Blazer Flex plan. You can also link to those payment deadlines through that site as well. Feel free to also always visit the One Stop Student Services website. The One Stop is the one-stop shop for everything you need while you're on campus for both you and your students. So you can link to a variety of resources through the One Stop's website. And then finally, the academic calendar, as Jeremy mentioned, has a number of different important dates and information listed from when classes begin to when payment deadlines are, and anything and everything in between. So take advantage of these resources throughout your time at UAB. And then finally, our One Stop Student Services office contact information. You can always reach us at our phone number. You can email us, or of course, you can view a lot of resources and make a lot of requests through the One Stop website. And then when we're back on campus, we welcome you to come and visit us anytime you're there at the Hill Student Center there on the first floor, right off of University Boulevard, convenient for you and your students. So at this time, we've finished up our presentation, but I know I've been seeing a lot of questions pop up. So we'll go ahead and move to begin answering those questions that you all have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So there are a few questions that have popped up in the midst of today. And again, I would love for people, if you still have questions, to please provide them in. If you are watching us again, just as a reminder, on Facebook, we are monitoring that as well. So we have the ability to respond to those questions as well. So I'm going to kind of bring it back around. We're going to start back up at the beginning here. Jeremy, there's been a couple of questions that have come in about, first and foremost, about when and where they can start to see fees for their students for the upcoming academic year. They've started seeing some things based on 12 hours, but we also do by credit hours. So when will they start to see their actual cost for their student for the fall semester? And then when will they know that that is the final cost for their student for their academic year?
So charges typically don't post for the fall until about early to mid-July. So they won't see those charges for tuition, even though the students already probably registered for classes if they've already attended orientation, but they won't see charges for tuition, housing, meal plans, those types of things until early to mid-July. And then honestly, that can change beyond that, even after that, up until the last day to drop out, because a student can then add or drop a course up until the last day to drop out, which can impact their student account or their bill and how much is going to be due on the first payment deadline. So if the student is messing with their schedule up until the first day of classes, then they want to constantly check that their account balance in BlazerNet to make sure that that did not have any kind of impact on their account balance. And a lot of times a student may switch a 3-hour course for another 3-hour course, and there may be fees associated with one that weren't associated with the other, so it could cause them to have more or a greater balance or a lesser balance depending on that course and what fees are associated with it. So it's always good to monitor it after charges have been posted. And so yeah, just keep monitoring it, but they probably won't post until early to mid-July.
Perfect. I just want to add to for our family members that if you have gotten, both Lane and Jeremy talked about the Campus ES, the Family Hub factor there. For family members that are connected to their student's account through the Family Hub, assuming your student has granted you access to their financial records, if a new charge is added to your account or changes are made, you will get an email alert every time that there are new charges added. It may take a 24-hour time frame, a cycle for it to come to you, but it will send you alerts when there are changes to their account so that you know as things update and change. Just wanted to add that in there. Lane, there were a couple of questions that came in regarding the master promissory note. And if they needed, do they need to go out and do the master promissory note and things along those lines if they do not intend for their student to take out any type of federal loan, any type of loans?
No, the master promissory note and entrance counseling only have to be completed if you're actually accepting those loans. So if you decided not to take out student loans, you do not have to complete those. And even if you decide to take them out later, you can always do the master promissory note and entrance counseling at a later date, or next year if you decide to take out loans next year. The main thing to keep in mind is if you do accept those loans, they will not disperse to your student's account until that master promissory note has been signed.
And following up on that, is there a way for a family member to see the master promissory note prior to the student signing it? And then in addition to that, are family members expected to sign the master promissory note, or is that just the student?
The student will sign the master promissory note for the direct student loan themselves. The Parent Plus loan, if families take out a Parent Plus loan, that will have a separate master promissory note. But otherwise, for those general direct student loans, just the student is signing those. And you can view to see if you've done that through BlazerNet. Your student can see if they've completed that and if we have record of it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely.
There's a couple of questions that have come in over various orientation sessions as well as today about if they have a 529 plan. How do they work? How does that work within making payments to the university? Can they do a direct pay from the 529 to UAB, or what does that process look like?
Yeah, so that one, typically the 529 plan will, a lot of times they'll mail a check to student accounting. And so if that's the case, they can use this email, or excuse me, the mailing address on our website. And sometimes they will coordinate with student accounting as well. If a parent, if you have questions about that, you can just email us and we can put you in touch with somebody in student accounting that regularly works with these 529 plans, just to kind of tell you what the best method is for your particular plan.
Okay, great, thank you. Kind of along those same lines, and this may be Jeremy, this is going to be a one-stop question. The family members wanting to know about, is it possible to schedule a one-on-one meeting with someone to walk the family and the student through, I may be assuming on the student, for their overall cost structure based on classes, meal plans, scholarships they've accepted, to just get a better understanding of how everything will work starting this fall?
Yeah, so a parent or a student can, they can call our office. We currently do not have a way to set up like a one-on-one meeting in advance. We're working on that, but we are answering phones and emails throughout the day during our normal business hours from 8 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and then 9 to 5 on Friday. So feel free to give us a call. All of our counselors can kind of help you understand what the cost of each thing is that you selected. I was told that tuition and fees will not be going up this year. It'll stay the same as last year. So all of our, our price per hour that's listed on the website is still accurate and will be for the upcoming school year. So we'll just kind of help you understand like the cost per hour and we'll give you, again, a rough estimate, because again, some things can change, especially if we don't know the exact student schedule, like what fees may be associated with particular classes, but we can give you an overall estimate of what it'll be around costing before the charges actually post in July.
Perfect. There's actually a question that followed up on something that you just made a statement about. So family members asking questions regarding how we charge for tuition based on, is it by credit hour? Is there a flat fee? A 15 to 18-hour credit fee, or 12 to 15 hour. How do we charge back to students as far as their tuition costs? Because they've heard various stories.
No, it's based on per hour. So it's, if a student takes 18 hours, it's 18 times per credit hour. It's not a flat fee, or it doesn't stop at 15 hours. So if a student takes 3 additional hours beyond 15 hours, they're going to be charged those 3 additional hours as well.
And for family members, in case you're not aware, just to add on to that, that there is, in order for a student to be considered full-time, which is needed for many other things that Lane was talking about again, as well as maybe even for your own health insurance and other policies and things, students are typically required to be a full-time enrolled student, which is traditionally considered 12 hours a semester. I know that can vary a little bit based on the number of hours you take per academic year, but traditionally it is considered 12 credit hours a semester. So for the payment plan, when that $25 payment fee that is out, the assessment fee that we charge, or that is assessed rather, to roll into the payment plan, is that a one-time charge? Is that a $25 fee added to each payment?
It's a one-time fee per semester. So if the student elects to be into the Blazer Flex plan, then they are only charged that one semester. And a point of clarification real quick, to enroll in the Blazer Flex plan, you don't have to do anything except not pay 100% on the first payment deadline. If you do not pay 100% on the first payment deadline, we automatically enroll you in that Blazer Flex plan fee, or Blazer Flex plan.
Great, thank you. Going back to some of these additional fees that we structure that are out there, whether it's a dining fee or a housing fee, how does that, can you talk them through a little bit more about how that how that is assessed to a student's house, to a bill, the overall cost and for payment process for family members? Meaning, is it all in one centralized location, or will they have to make payments and plans in multiple different areas?
No, so I'm assuming it's regarding this housing fee and how's the housing fee get applied to the bill.
Yes.
All things such as a meal plan, housing, parking permit, those all get applied to the student bill. There's not a separate thing that you have to, another portal that you need to go into and pay for housing, or another portal you need to go in and pay for a parking permit, another portal you need to go and pay for dining. No, it all gets charged to the student account and it's paid there. Regarding the housing deposit, which I think is what they were asking, the housing deposit gets applied to or credited to the student's account once they post charges and begin classes in the fall.
So essentially the housing fee was a deposit per se onto the cost
Yes.
of it. Jeremy, do you want to answer the question regarding meal plans? There's a question about when they can start to select their meal plans. I will also just add a plug that there is going to be a webinar next week, exactly a week from today, about housing and dining as well, just as a side note.
You know, I'm going to probably defer to that presentation, only because there's things are ever changing. And I think it's probably going to be once we've confirmed that we will be having classes in the fall, which as far as I know we are. And once they start making housing assignments, that's when I believe you'll be able to make a meal plan selection. But to get confirmation on that, I would defer to that presentation next week.
I will say that I do know that they have released the fee amounts for the housing meal plans and everything, that you can now go out to uab.edu/dining and see all of the meal plan fees for the upcoming year. They have finalized and released those fees. But that, again, there is going to be another webinar next Tuesday at 2 o'clock where we'll be covering both housing and dining to hopefully cover all of that. And then the last question that I see on here right now is a question about where the student has applied for some scholarships. It says BlazerNet, but I'm assuming that it's and also the
Smart Portal
section. Do you know if there are still applications that are still under consideration, or what the process is for any of those particular applications that are out there?
Yeah, great question. I believe most of those scholarships have been awarded at this time. So if your student has received a scholarship through the BSmart portal, they should have received communication about that already. If they have not accepted their offers, they can go through and view and accept through BSmart. And once they've accepted, especially their main ACT and GPA based scholarships, once they accept those in BlazerNet, or excuse me, in BSmart, they will then, within about 24 hours, see those roll into their financial aid and scholarship information in BlazerNet.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Well, that is all of the major questions that I have seen come in today, and from both our current platforms. Are there any last minute tips or suggestions or things that we need to share from the areas of financial aid or the one stop that we need to make sure our families and subsequently their students know in order to start off the fall semester on a smooth note?
Right. I would just encourage students and family members to check their UAB email and BlazerNet often, as well as the Family Hub. Those are the best ways for us to communicate with you. And that's where you can see exactly what is needed from us, whether you have additional requirements to make sure you receive all of your aid in the fall, or if any important announcements are communicated through those various mechanisms through BlazerNet and through your UAB email. So that would be my biggest recommendation, is to just make sure you stay in contact with us through that.
And I would just say that, you know, a parent that is well informed, that calls and asks questions, is easy to help. So one of the ways that they can do that is by signing up for the Family Hub. And that way, when you call, you have those resources in front of you, because a lot of times we'll say, well, what are you looking at? What are you seeing that is confusing to you or that you need clarification on? And that allows us to help you without violating FERPA. And so strong plug or big plug for the Family Hub or Campus CSP, whatever we're calling it right now. Family Hub, I like to call it. Sounds more family oriented. So I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and sign up for that and get your student to grant you access to certain things on that. So again, you are well prepared and in the know when you call and ask certain questions.
Perfect. Thank you both for that. And thank you again for the plug on the Family Hub. So again, for family members who haven't done so, you can go to uab.edu / did it on the wrong side again, uab.campusesp.com, and that is our UAB Family Hub. And that is where, again, you can connect to your student's account. And in order to connect to their account, all you have to do is send them an email and ask them for access to their records and everything. So it's a very simplified process, and we really encourage our family members to connect with their students that way. And also to have some really great conversations with your students about why you're asking for that information. But that is everything from our side of the world. We are going to be providing this webinar back on the Parent and Family Services website. It will be up there in the next few days. So if our family members want to go back for refreshers or anything along those lines, it's there for you to go and see. And also, if there are other people that you think should have seen this information, you can share it with them that way. And then we will continue to have different webinars for our family members for the remainder of the summer, including, as I've already mentioned, we have a housing and dining one next Tuesday. There is one on transportation services this Thursday. There's also one on off-campus student services this week on Thursday. And then there's just many, many more. So make sure you go out and check out again, the Family Hub. All of the dates are listed there, as well as off of the Parent and Family Services website, uab.edu/families. So thank you all so much for taking the time to come and learn a little bit more about this today. And without a doubt, thank you so much to Lane and Jeremy for doing this and taking the time to walk our family members through the respective questions and sharing those key pieces of information that they need to know in order to start off the fall semester.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. I hope that everybody has a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you all soon. Thanks so much.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everybody.